A couple of months ago, I released a video on the fleeting impact of seasonal anime. And as the months went by and life took some changes for me, I spent a lot of time thinking of ways to stand out among others when seasonal shows are all the rage. Giving into the idea of watching 10 to 20 seasonals no longer interests me, so I don't get too involved in the current conversation much anymore. But I'm okay with that, because when the next season comes around, it'll be all new conversations with forgotten gems of the previous season remaining forgotten to time. And even some of the popular shows will fade into obscurity. In this time period of rebuilding my life since I left my job, I've been thinking that those are the shows that matter. Those are the ones that I want to talk about. This isn't to say that I'll never watch or talk about modern shows ever again. I personally am interested in seeing where the conversation regarding Darling and the Franxx goes. And there are other shows this season that genuinely interest me. But the list is extremely short, so in what I hope to be a long string of consistent videos, I'll be unearthing some old or obscure titles that seem to go under people's radar or are overshadowed by other titles. Obviously, I can't quite judge what is totally obscured worldwide, but hopefully the sample sizes of users on my anime list can help with that, and maybe I'll mention a show that you've never heard of that might interest you. The first of our journeys is both an oldie and an obscure title. It takes us back to 1987 to a 2-episode OVA called Twilight Q. Each episode is its own self-contained story, so if you're not a fan of one of them, the other one may still catch your interest. The storytelling is much in the style of the Twilight Zone, though some people consider it a Twilight Zone light. But that's not to say they aren't entertaining or don't get your brain thinking. In fact, the ending of the second episode is something that could actually be open for a lot of interpretation. Each episode of Twilight Q was handled by a different studio, with the first being animated by Ajia Do, or is it Asia Do, and directed by Tomomi Mochizuki, who worked on the first season of Ranma Half and brought us the wondrous masterpiece that is Pupa. The second episode was animated by Studio Dean and directed by Mamoru Oshii. But with all of that information mumbo jumbo aside, you're probably asking, what makes Twilight Q worth my time? Why should I stop watching the latest episode of for such an old show that no one else I know will ever watch? Old and obscure shows always seem to be treasures. Most of them have something of substantial worth to offer, whether that be great stories or writing not bogged down by the consistent stream of content we have now, or the possibility of a low-quality dub being extremely high.
Oh dearie me, I've just kicked the bucket.
This isn't to say that old anime are always great. Of course, there were bad eggs back in the day. But in the past, when we had less anime made per year, there was less to be disappointed about. Twilight Q isn't one of those shows like Psycho Pass that had a message about society to send. Nor is it like Evangelion, that was also open for all kinds of interpretation and messages about self-worth and choice. Twilight Q is one of those shows you switch on when you're home alone on a rainy night and you're not looking for a huge time investment. It still has a quality to its story like the shows previously mentioned, but as I stated earlier, it's like an entryway into a more complex idea. And while it still has its own messages, they aren't as impactful as Psycho Pass or Eva were. There's probably not much reason to watch Twilight Q if you're a huge Twilight Zone fan, but if you've never given this kind of show the chance, and mysteries or the supernatural strike your fancy, Twilight Q is an hour worth enjoying. I figure it's best to go into these episodes not knowing a thing about them, other than the kind of show you're getting yourself into. If I say too much, it might ruin the journey for you. So enjoy. If you like this video and want more, consider donating on Patreon, and you can be like Justin here.
Hey, subscribe to The Art of Anime. Trust me, I tell you, it's really good. But if you don't, something bad's gonna happen to you.